If I was not watching Professor Black Truth's most recent address, pertaining to the DNC doing the same song and dance that they did back in 2016, using black to try to push their way into the White House, I would have not come across this piece right here. So I was watching his address that he did, and this part came up, and I said, oh God, here we go again with another one of these individuals writing these pieces where they're trying to subliminally come at black men. Now, you want to know what's so crazy about this, what you see on your screen? That the only time they ever mention black men in this entire run for the White House is to write something like this. We may not see another thing about black men after this. And if we do, it's going to be something to piggyback off of this. This thing says Kamala Harris doesn't have a problem with black men and they shouldn't have a problem with her. And who are you? I actually found out the person who wrote this, his name is Paul Butler. He's some kind of professor or has something to do with Georgetown University. And I said, that's already too close to me. Because Georgetown, that's in DC. I can't remember the last time I went onto the side of DC where Georgetown is located. But the fact that it's in DC, that's still too close. But this almost plays out like that piece that Damon Young did on The Root back in 2017 that said that black men are the white men of the community. Correction, heterosexual black men are the white men of the community. See, every time they want to write some kind of op-ed, because this is all this is, it's an op-ed piece, which means it doesn't have any facts, it's just filled with the people's opinions. Whenever they write something like this, it's usually always something to the effect of trying to put down a black man. But at the same time, these are the same people that said that black men need to step up, that black men need to do this, black men need to do that. Black men don't want to do or be attached to a lot of things when stuff like this gets written. But let me go ahead and try to stomach through what this person is saying. And it was posted August 18th, 2020. Paul Butler is the Albert Brick Professor in Law at Georgetown University, a former federal prosecutor. He is the author of Chokehold Policing Black Men. Does Senator Kamala D. Harris have a black man problem? The stakes could not be higher. If African American men vote for 45 in the same numbers they did in 2016, or if they fail to turn out because of lack of enthusiasm, it could cost Democrats the election. So now they want us to reach out to them. What happened to them reaching out to black women like they've been doing? Because that's all they've been doing this whole run, and that's all they've ever been known to do and neglect us, but now they need us. And I can tell a lot of these individuals don't know how to read a goddamn decent exit poll that clearly showed back in 2016, white women were damn near neck and neck with white men. That was historical for them because usually white women don't vote that high in number. So they always want to come at us, because I think when it said that 45, when it came to voting, that black men were only about 13% of the people who voted for him. Hell, even the Latinos voted at 30%, which was about over half. But they don't come at them. Why? Why don't they go at white women the same way they want to come at black men? And I can tell many of them don't know how the goddamn electoral college works either. The black gender gap in presidential politics is real. According to exit polls in 2016, 45 received 13% of the black male vote, but only 4% of black women voted for him. So is it fair, if unsettling, to worry whether Harris's presence on a Democratic ticket could play into Trump's re-election strategy? I believe the answer will turn out to be a resounding no. Many African-American women were understandably elated when former Vice President Joe Biden selected Harris, whose parents were born in Jamaica and India, as the first black woman and the first Asian American to appear on a major party. You notice that they always have to make sure to slip that in there, as if many of us over here give a damn. It is not about her heritage. It is not about her being an AKA. It's not about her going to Howard University, because it's not like Kamala Harris is the first mixed up person, or the first person to go to an HBCU, or the first person to pledge a sorority that can achieve something. It's about her policies at the end of the day. And they keep overlooking that all the time for symbolic purposes. And we're tired of it. This is the tone deafness we're talking about here. This guy right here and others like him are your perfect examples of your wannabe bourgeoisie, high academia, wanna be around and hanging off of white people so much type of person that many of us don't and cannot stand. You know, the people like Kamala Harris, the Kamala Harrises of the world. Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, another person many of us cannot stand, tweeted, "I am so overwhelmed as I know that women around the nation, women of color, and yes, black women, can see their equal status in this nation finally. See, more wanting to be symbolic stuff. Nothing about policy, just symbolism. But concerns about whether African-American men will be as enthusiastic about the vice presidential nominee have resurfaced from the Democratic primary. Harris spent most of her career as a prosecutor in a criminal legal process that disproportionately ensnares African-American men. This summer, National Reckoning of Racial Justice shines a harsh light on Harris's past when she boasted she was a top cop." That statement right there alone should have raised many red flags for people. But, you know, people overlook that because, you know, she's a part of the sister girl committee, the sister girl circle. We can call it that. The jokes are firing up on social media. The photo of Biden and Harris superimposed over an image of a prison and caption, "Locking up that black vote." The meme depicting Monopoly, Kamala Harris edition, where every square on the board says "go to jail." While not as openly discussed, Harris's interracial marriage has also been seen as a liability for some black men. I don't know any black men that was really saying anything about it. I don't really know many people that was talking about it, to be quite honest, but I bet you any amount of money that if Barack Obama had a white wife and her name was also Michelle, I can only imagine how that would have played out. It says, Uncle Luke Campbell, the former hip-hop star and now an important player in the Florida politics, wrote in 2019, "For better or worse, black men don't want to vote for a black woman who married a white man." So they used one person as an example and blanket that whole entire statement onto every black man. But remember that Simone Sanders linebacker bill had some choice words to say about Luther Campbell, Uncle Luke, back then as well, but I bet you they're not going to talk about that. And what she said was actually much worse than what he said. Because she tried to make it seem like this guy was completely dumb, even though he had involvement in a foothold in politics longer than she has. He says, where does that leave things? Although she never caught on among black folks, male or female, during the primary season, Harris has taken pains to address some of those concerns. In the opening words of her appearance alongside Biden, Harris invoked the moral reckoning with racism and systemic injustice that has brought a new coalition of conscience to the streets of our country, demanding change. In the Senate, she compiled one of the most progressive records on criminal justice reform, including co-sponsoring the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act of 2020. It is a different time, but Harris speaks about the racial justice far more than Barack Obama did during his first presidential campaign, and Obama won 90% of the black male vote. I see what they're doing here. It's so obvious. They're basically saying, well, if Barack Obama can do all of that and still get the black male vote, what makes it different from black men voting for Kamala Harris now? Like I said, it all goes back to her policy. See, we didn't really know a lot of the policy with Barack Obama initially, and I think it's just that it was the symbolism thing there. But see, here's the thing: many of us have learned our lesson since Obama, and the thing is, a lot of people see Kamala Harris as Obama in a female form. But I think that she could be just as bad because we know of her history as the quote unquote top cop. Remember, this is the same woman that let that palm-colored cop out of jail in less than a year for killing Oscar Grant. And how many black men has she locked up during her tenure? Nobody I know who lives in California under her tenure likes her. For God's sakes, the woman had a rating of 5. She was beneath Cory Booker. Now you know that's bad if you're below Cory Booker during the that primary run. It says Harris's formidable political skills should not be discounted. After Campbell criticized her politics and Mary, Harris's staff set up a conversation between the two. Campbell ended up endorsing Harris in the Florida primary. "I'm a man," he said. "I can say I made a mistake." Short of the absurdity of divorcing her husband and marrying a black man, it seems that Harris has done all she can to try to win the African American male vote. So perhaps the better question is the converse of the one that I posted at the start. Do black men have a Kamala Harris problem? The answer is or should be no. Now look at that. The answer is or should be no. Here you have another person trying to speak on black men's behalf instead of actually talking to everyday black men to see what they feel about her. And you know what the thing is? A lot of the people who write these so-called op-eds and think pieces, they be watching the stuff that we post on these platforms. They be watching our Twitter accounts. How do you think they get the quote-unquote gumption, gall to actually write stuff like this? Because they be watching what we saying. Prominent civil rights attorney Ben Crump, who represents the families of victims of police violence, including Breonna Taylor, whose killers are still out there, and George Floyd, endorsed Harris, describing her as our sister in the movement for justice. I guess. When rumors surfaced during the selection process that some in Biden's camp viewed Harris as too ambitious, more than 100 prominent African-American men responded in an open letter telling Biden that failing to select a black woman means you will lose the election. The signatories, including business mogul Sean Diddy Combs, NBA star Chris Paul, and civil rights leader Bishop William J. Barber, asked whether Biden's ambition had ever been criticized since he's run for president 3 times, and said the double standard for black women disgusts us. As an African-American man, I was hesitant to tackle the subject because even raising it seems to center black men at a moment that frankly isn't really about us. Putting black men first has been the pattern of virtually every U.S. racial justice movement, from the anti-lynching campaigns of the early 20th century to the protests against police brutality and mass incarceration today. This is true even when those issues also impact black women, as the Say Her Name campaign has demonstrated about police violence. See, that was, and right there, that was the gender dividing comment. That was the gender dividing part of this article, of this op-ed. I tell you, you dig deep enough, the people will expose themselves without them saying what their agenda is. Harris's historic nomination is a cause for celebration for Americans of all races and genders. African American men should be cheering Harris on, as black women have always cheered us on. Okay, whatever. I feel like I wasted time reading that, but I felt like I needed to go ahead and bring that to your attention because it's the same song and dance. Basically, this person who wrote this is trying to bully black men into supporting this woman. And it's not going to work. I'm telling you, they are going to be so disappointed in November. You want to know what's so interesting? Let's hypothetically say that Joe Biden wins. I would like to see those exit poll numbers and see where black men were actually ranked on this. Because guess what? It's going to be low. Let's say that they actually win. The numbers out from black men is going to be low for those who actually voted for her. And they'll be mad about that, even though they won. I'm telling you, it's a double-edged sword. They'll be mad if they lose, and they'll be mad if they win. You know what that sounds like? Them palm-colored people who always find celebration tactics to use whenever they win or lose a college championship game. It's like, it's weird. Like you should celebrate more when you win, but you celebrate more when you lose. Like, that makes no sense to me. But like I tell you, they're going to be happy. They're going to be mad either way. They're going to be mad at us if they lose because they were mad at us when Hillary lost back in 2016, even though the exit polls show that white women voted in high numbers. And they were the ones that them and white men were the ones that helped propel him to win. It really didn't have anything to do with the 13% of black men that voted for 45. Because she had the popular vote. But then they're going to be upset if they do win with this, because they'll feel black men did not vote in high numbers or higher numbers. So we can't win either way. I'm calling it now. Is no satisfying these individuals, but guess what? I'm not here to give into their satisfaction. It is what it is. They take it or leave it. But I know where my stance is when it comes to this. And I will not be bullied into voting for this man and this woman.